It's going to be me. I actually asked not to host because of the subjects that we're going to be talking about. And I don't want to be, like I have my own biases and I want to be able to express my opinions without having, this facilitator position conflicting with that. No one was able to cover. So I'm just going to have to shut my app
Yeah.
and kind of do the job. But I dropped the link to our snapshot. We have a few different snapshots that resolved recently. We have some active ones. I'll go through the active ones first. We have three active ones, I believe. First one is AGIP 154, which is the DAO Foundation Director election. This one is currently to either elect Nestor or Nestor and DAObox to represent the DAO as directors going forward. Currently, Nestor is winning with 1.2 million votes at 70% of the vote. Both as an option has 16.92%, and DAObox alone has 13.05%. So this vote started on the 20th, so this is 2 days ago, and it will run till December 6th. We're currently at 23% of quorum, so we need to get these numbers up a bit in order to meet quorum on this one. Like I said, this is open for another 2 weeks from now, so you have plenty of time to vote, but try to get those votes in early. Next up, we have two PTD G2s and GF, like distribution sig props. These are polls. The first one is the distribution schedule for the rarity farming part of PTD. Currently, 1.4 million votes in favor of right away based on rarity farming season 12, round one. Option A, distribute later, is in second place with 27% of the vote, 66% for right away. And then right away based on SIG prop is in last place with 5.98%. This also has only 28.9% quorum. It was created 2 days ago. It will end next week, so I think next Friday. So make sure you're voting on that as well, friends. Next active proposal is the distribution percentages for the rarity farming part of PTD. The three options here, option A is winning with 20 BAT, 50 BRS, 20 kinship, and 10 XP. 20 BAT is the battler, so this is, I guess, what we were currently doing: 20, 50, 20, and 10. Option C is in second place with 35% of the vote. This one is in favor of 62.5% going towards BRS, 25 towards kinship, 12.5 towards XP. The third option, which is option B, only has 5% of the vote, 70% BRS, 20% to kinship, 10% to XP. Oh, dog got freaked out. November 21st, it started yesterday. It will resolve again on November 28th like the other prop. This only has 16.8% of the quorum, so make sure you get your votes out on that. Now, we had several polls closed in the last 3 days, as well as the foundation director election. We can go through the foundation director election. The SIG prop closed. Nestor won overwhelmingly with 63.38% of the vote, 5 million votes. This reached 108% of quorum, so make sure that you're voting on the core prop that we discussed earlier. We also have the various PTD polls. Should I go through all 5 of these? Because they've all closed, and we know that the general one that we were looking at, which was the distribution, was the one that met quorum. So should I go through each one of these individually? Because there's the partial treasury distribution, but there's the distribution amount, the long-term holder weights, how to make sure we distribute only to DAO members, how to make sure we don't distribute to lost wallets, claiming period. And then we have this conversation that is now ongoing regarding if the foundation can do certain types of distributions, whether it's legal for us to do that if we would face any compliance issues. Should I just read all the props, or should I kind of pivot towards
I think I don't know, see what people think, but we've gone through the polls couple times, I think.
Okay.
Never said no.
Yep, two's enough for me. Okay, so I want to read what regarding the Solomonic approach, anti-front running. This came from VR Dev. He tagged this in the DAO Call Agendas channel, and it says, just to clarify, the AGIP I want to bring is the version we worked on the past few weeks, according to all the polls we did. But the directors have to sign off on it, or the signers are technically not allowed to sign over the funds. At least that is my understanding. Please correct me if I'm wrong. With that in mind, there is no point in bringing the AGIP that a director cannot or will not sign off on. Thanks to Ditchy's efforts with AGIP 151, the foundation has, for the first time, funds for their own legal counsel. These funds can be used to have a professional explain to us how, if at all, we can implement the original split we had in mind so the director can sign off on it. While I'm no legal expert, it seems to me that our foundation's constitution was not written with the interests of the DAO in mind. I guess that is what we get for using someone else's lawyers. But when the conflict of interest was brought back when it was dismissed, now we are stuck with our hands tied behind our backs. At least that is how it feels to me. If someone wants to take the lead on getting legal advice for this, I'm happy to shelve the AGIP until we know more, provided that happens in a timely manner. If no one wants to do that, I feel like I owe it to all the supporters to at least present the version of PTD that we know we can do, which is to move the 2/3 from the other two pools to the rarity farming pool and go ahead with that. Should that indeed remain our only option for distribution, I too see little sense in causing a pump and dump as people ape in and would hence stick with the Season 12 Rarity Farming Round 1 snapshot in that case. Now, for a little context, VR Dead had basically did some ChatGPT research about whether we can, as a foundation, do a distribution the way that it's been laid out kind of in the partial treasury distribution props. From the understanding, I'm just going to TLDR this very quickly. It's just that if we do it via rarity farming, we should be fine because it's a competition based. It can't be voting power based. As he says here, yeah, I fed ChatGPT our constitution and then simply described what we were planning to do and asked if it would be okay. And despite being known for its sycophancy and wanting to please its users, it didn't matter what argument I brought. It would not budge on that we cannot distribute based on VP or voting activity. The proof of life eligibility based on voting in the last 6 months would be fine. So would the rarity farming part of the distribution because it's based on a competition. Here's some details. DAO member doesn't mean members of the foundation, so this is not about Clause 6 of the memorandum, which forbids token distributions to members. So without going through all this, basically, we were trying to define, or he was, who the members of this DAO are. Nestor has brought up some points that the members are separate from what the council is, which is what we are, the voters within the DAO. So long story short, we're kind of at an impasse here because we need to figure out legally what we can do. Some of the issues that we would face, and as VR Dev has brought up, and so basically, if we do this, the distribution the way it's originally been written, and no one objects, there's a chance that once the CorpSec hears about it, they resign, and we might not be able to get a new one because we did something we were not allowed to do. And if we do get a new one, they might even decide to try to hold the previous CorpSec or directors accountable somehow. It could become a huge mess or be totally fine. I just don't want to be lynched for putting anyone in a problematic position. I got enough hate my way in the past few weeks. So we honestly don't know what the answer is. We do have funds for legal counsel, but the bounty for that was incomplete. We only got 2 options. We weren't given the direct contact to either option. And then before Ditchy quit, it turned out that one of the options really wasn't an option that fit what we needed. So that bounty, some people will argue it's been complete. It has not been complete. So my suggestion would be, and jump in the comments or raise your hand if you want to jump up here and speak. Previously, I said we should basically wait for the new director to be signed in. And it seems like it's going to be Nestor. Once that prop goes through and Nestor's in, then as part of that role, he can start sourcing out the legal counsel. We have the money set aside to do that. So for me, that makes sense as the next steps. But I don't know if that means that we are supposed to stall a partial treasury distribution at this point to wait for that to happen to get the legal counsel, or if the DAO wants to move forward. I'm going to read. Coder Dan, do you want to read your response, or I saw you just post it?
Go ahead.
Which one is it? Because I'm looking at it on a different computer. I can't open the stage because it's going to kick me.
There's 2. I guess one was just me saying that they're interpreting the articles wrong. Mm-hmm. The members, and then Nestor points out later, we might not even have members. I'm not 100% sure about that, but if we do have a member, it's basically only the corporate secretary, maybe, and maybe Nestor, but he's a director, and we're not 100% sure if he's a member or not. But members definitely does not include the council. And the council are the actual token holders. So that's not really an issue. Like saying that, members cannot receive funds. Well, that's true, but the DAO is not a member. And then yeah, the second one that I linked to.
Yeah, my
Okay,
my
I'll just read it. So
yeah.
I'm not a lawyer, and it would make sense for the DAO to check in with some legal counsel on this. And this is me reading. My 2 cents is the Rarity Farm distro is fine as it is, but the other parts about voting and calculating based on that are probably also fine in the existing structure as long as they're defined as supporting the health and growth of the protocol, such as a governance and participation incentive program, with the goal of incentivizing and rewarding ongoing active participation in governance. And it would also, and this is based on the conversation, my conversations that I had with AI as well, and just my own understanding of the document that was crafted by Ross for the DAO, which contrary to popular opinion, we actually did do it tried to do it with the DAO's best interest in mind on behalf of the DAO. It would be even better if there was some tie-in to a future voting activity. Perhaps the rewards could vest over a 6 to 12 month period, so it's future looking, helping to promote governance, the foundation's object. And the reason, so where this comes from is there is a clause. I think VRDev does mention this clause, which is there's something about basically the foundation's object. What is the object of the foundation? The foundation's object is to basically promote growth and activity and health of the protocol and the ecosystem. So if and there's also a part that says that there should not be any persons or descriptions of persons designated as beneficiaries. So really when you go and you ask legal counsel, and they're always gonna, and this is crypto, they're always gonna tell you, it's a gray area, guys. It's a gray area. Like that's you're gonna pay $5,000 for that answer, but you just have to ask anyway. But they're gonna say, well, it depends on how you define a beneficiary and how you define what the prop itself, like, is it incentivizing growth or not? How is it kind of, what is it phrased as, or like what's the underlying kind of principle of the prop? So there are these two clauses, and this is basically just how, because it's a foundation, it's kind of designed to not have beneficiaries because it's a nonprofit. That's just kind of what you do with foundations. It's not that Pixelcraft was like trying to do something here. It's just that's what foundations are. So you definitely don't want a situation where, or if you can avoid it, like a certain class of people being labeled as beneficiaries is probably what you don't want. So that's what the DAO should try to avoid. So I don't know, saying, Andy says, pay me 1,000 USDT. Basically what you want is you want to say, this is not it's not a retroactive refund, or it's not this is not giving like people who may have lost money, like refunding money. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know anything, but I don't think that's what the spirit of the prop should be. If it is, then you do have a risk of potentially, you could say that class of people who maybe are lost money or something and are down in their investment, that could be classified as a beneficiary, and they're not contributing to growth in any way. So that's pretty much the gist of what we are working with here. It's just the DAO is going to need to navigate that path. I think it's very doable. I don't think there's anything major issues here. It's just phrasing is very important, and how things are structured and written out in the proper way.
Yeah, I agree. I'll read what Foreign wrote because they had dropped this. She had dropped this earlier this morning. This is the AI overview. Foundation company is a hybrid legal structure in the Cayman Islands that combines elements of a company and a foundation. A key feature is its ability to become an ownerless entity. An ownerless foundation is a term used to describe this specific feature of a foundation company, where it can cease to have members like shareholders and be supervised by a separate supervisor instead. Therefore, ownerless foundation is a description of a specific operational state of a Cayman Islands foundation company, not a different type of entity entirely. And she goes on and says, we can be memberless, but not sure what our status currently is. Updating our constitution and moving our structure to an ownerless foundation is something we should probably start looking into. A lot has changed regarding DAOs and legal frameworks since we made our foundation, so it would make sense to update ours and erase many of these ambiguities. I agree. The one thing I will say is, in terms of members, I cannot tell you if we actually do or do not have members. From what I remember from Johnson, the only thing listed on the original docs when we were pre Lotusha with our previous CorpSec is they listed just 3 directors. There were no members listed on that. So if we had a conversation with, it's like 8 months ago, with Johnson, and I remember him saying that we don't necessarily need members, but we need the officer positions like that. As long as we have at least one officer, one director, as it was, then we should be fine. But we would have to go back and talk to Johnson. I'm trying to once I guess this election ends and Nestor, assuming he wins, we'll be able to get him into the DAO directors channel and then directly into the CorpSec channel so that we can start sourcing these things out with Johnson, as soon as we can. We have some comments. Let's see. I think include the end. The prop may have to list how much each wallet should receive, whatever the method of calculations are. So I'm not sure. Are you talking about?
I don't.
Yeah.
That sounds like a beneficiary. You want to avoid having, if the foundation is against having specific people noted as beneficiaries, I'm not sure that putting specific wallets in the prop is what you'd want.
Yeah, so I guess like the question here is like, for me, it seems like the path is really straightforward. We have to wait until the election for the foundation director is complete. That's in 14 days. And then in 14 days, we can then give Nestor the tools in place. Because currently, like I said, we don't have legal counsel. We only had like 1.5, if you want to count it like that, delivered as part of that bounty that was not completed. So we don't actually have... You were able to get in contact with Ape Law, right? Ape DAO Law or whatever it was?
I got a quote from them. I think it was 40,000, and it was a bunch of stuff. We only got, the DAO only allocated 10,000 for a retainer in that prop. Their quote was like, it was way more. So I think that was kind of what Dishy was supposed to do. So I didn't really follow up, and it was also over the budget, and it wasn't actually for what we wanted, which at the time was just a DAO, like a director.
Yeah, and then DAO Box doesn't fit the bill either because they're not legal.
They don't have legal counsel. Yeah, they can offer legal counsel, so that could be one way to follow up and say, hey, we're not working with DAO Box, but hey, could we work with your legal counsel?
Yeah, so right now we don't have any options, so it would be wise to wait until once either Nestor or DAO Box is put into place, because that would be part of that role, and then we could start the process of finding the legal counsel. Because in the previous process, the idea was that we were supposed to be presented with the 3 options and then discuss and then pick something, but we didn't get to that point, and we just gotta make sure that like for Nestor in the role that he's taking on, he has the discretion to make that choice. The monkeys with a ledger don't. So it's like that was been the big sticking point about making any of these decisions, is it opens up liability that we don't know about. And I'll be real, I called out the compliance issues before of distributions in July when Bob came out and I started asking about quitting or suing the DAO to have me removed, because my worry is that they'll do a distribution while my name is still on documents that I don't want to be on, and that could negatively impact me because we don't know for certain. So in my opinion, we need to do this the right way, because if not, we could put members of the DAO at jeopardy, and we won't know until we really talk to a lawyer. We've had so many ChatGPT armchair lawyers here. We should just put the money down and get some legal advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree, Nestor. The catalog of questions for the legal advisor. The one thing we had 3 questions, very basic, that I was hoping to ask if we ever got to see these people, which is our foundation compliant as it is right now? Do we need these directors? Do these roles matter? And is there liability to the directors that could be, like via being the director of this foundation? And then if those 2 things are at odds, then what is the structure that would best fit what we need based on, what we have established here as doing as the Aavegotchi DAO Foundation? So we're not a for-profit entity. We're, as you can see with the Constitution, we're more focused on our ecosystem. What are is our model fine for what we're doing, or do we need a more robust model? So those would be the 3 questions I asked. I'm sure there's plenty of others, but we have to keep in mind that we're paying by the hour. So if we catalog like the best questions, I don't know if Nestor, if you want to take the lead and maybe open up a new forum post for this, or maybe we can recycle one of the older forum, like one of the 10 forum posts that Ditchy had put together on these various foundation related topics, so that we can start sourcing these questions, because we'll have basically 2 weeks until you're potentially enshrined as the director, and then from there we can start the process pretty quickly, hopefully, to find someone to come on and give us legal advice. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we do have the money. Maxi Crouton with a question. Just one question. If the members, directors are not allowed to pay themselves, why are we paying ourselves 2K Ghost every quarter? Have we been acting outside the rules from the beginning? I think
No, I'm pretty sure there's something about members can be paid if it's like there's work being done.
Yeah, we can't give ourselves a dividend, but our compensation for our for the employment that we're doing, the work we're doing, I think is fine. If we were just like saying, hey, like, let's just distribute 5K to each of us just willy nilly, we're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
We got some comments coming in. We'll just wait for a second. When is the next Monkey Ledger election coming up? I assumed it was going to be in the next month or so, but I remember we had some stalls with switching over people, and the term started. It started in 2025. I want to say it was supposed to start in like February or March, but we had major delays because that's what triggered us figuring out that the CorpSec was broken, because we went to update with the CorpSec that we were adding somebody and they just never responded. That saga started in March of this year, and then we didn't really get anything settled with the new CorpSec until like almost end of April. We got confirmation of things like in mid to late June after Hardcore had passed. But yeah, I remember we weren't able to get the new directors into the multi-sig, I want to say until March or April, but the election happened sooner than that. Andy, we've been talking about the legality of it the whole time. It's just, I don't know. I've been questioning like what we can and can't do, what should happen, but we haven't had legal counsel. The person who was supposed to bring us these options quit after me calling out certain behaviors or accusations against them. So we have not. We've been stuck since basically March. It's just soul draining at this point. So I'll read Coder Dan's final summary. Substance matters more than labels. The further your real mechanics diverge from pure pro rata on holdings, regardless of behavior, the stronger your position. There is a big difference between we took a snapshot of ghost balances and wired everyone their share of the treasury because we feel bad, and we retroactively compensated governance participation work over the last 3 years at a fixed rate per vote, and we are going to continue to use this program going forward to incentivize high quality participation.
Yeah, I think the more it moves away from this is a one-time retroactive refund of funds versus this is a forward-looking governance incentive mechanism, the better. You want to lean more on that. So that will move you out of the no beneficiaries gray area. Because that's work being done. People are voting and moving the protocol forward.
Yeah, Andy, you're 100% correct. The distribution stuff came up in July when we had Bob and Rongming offer, because we got an offer. I don't know if you saw that, but we got an offer to buy out the DAO, and that kind of triggered a lot of this conversation. So I've been asking about the legality of that distribution since then, because I made it pretty clear. Golden Cross can, attest to this. I in DMs told him, I was like, I think I'm gonna step down because I don't want my name on documents if we're gonna do this kind of distribution, because we don't know if it's legal or not. We can't say that without talking to legal counsel. Luckily, the DAO defended itself against that acquisition, basically, but it would have been really difficult for me to sign off on that. Not even as a director, but just as a monkey with a ledger, not knowing if we're doing something that we can legally do. This is why it's been pertinent, and we have to kind of like get on this, like getting proper legal counsel. But it's a chicken and egg thing, because we need a sanctioned director, one that's been elected by the DAO, not just randomly placed into a role to make those decisions, because then them acting with discretion makes sense, because there was a formal process that basically enshrined them as the director, where people who weren't elected into that position making that decision opens up like liability, in my opinion, potentially. And I know, like, we don't know, but I'd rather err on the side of caution than put myself at risk, just because the DAO's in a rush. That's a good point.
Oh, what do people think of the vesting idea? Instead of receiving all of the rewards at once, what about having them vest over time, and the vesting is contingent on whether or not you continue to vote and engage with the protocol? I know we're kind of talking to the converted here. Most of the people that are for this prop are not in this call, but maybe we can just continue that after this discussion, because that will further move it away from the gray area.
Yeah, I agree. Immaterial with this comment says, okay, I think it's worth getting the multi-sig rock solid. One thing I'm also concerned about, if a lot of people leave after the distribution, what if we cannot reach quorum afterwards?
The vesting would help with that, because they would say, hey, if you don't vote, your stimmy's going to get turned off. It wouldn't be like vesting in the sense that it's locked up. It would just be like a monthly kind of incentive to be active voting. But it's based on, it would be based on your previous voting history, but you need to be active voting to receive it. If that makes sense.
My only worry is that we kind of are taking prisoners of the people who are trying to leave, because if they're gonna, they want this distribution for various reasons, but it also keeps like people who are at odds with the mission, and depending on what you see as the mission of the DAO in general. But yeah. Oh, it may also be worth considering voting delegation. What do you mean, like for people that are vested, that they can delegate their votes to some other person that will be active in the ecosystem for the term of the vesting immaterial?
Right. I think is that possible with Snapshot? I think they do have some sort of delegation.
Yeah, I'm just reading Foreign's research, no, a foundation company does not own the DAO's assets and tokens. It legally holds them on behalf of the DAO community, effectively acting as a legal wrapper for the organization. The foundation's purpose is to provide legal personhood for the DAO to enter into contracts, own property, and have limited liability, while its operations are intended to be governed by the DAO's token holders, according to the foundation. So then she goes on to say, the DAO is voting to distribute, not the foundation choosing to themselves. So that is like that is a good point, because it is the DAO council that is voting versus like the monkeys with a ledger, or the two or directors right now deciding that they're going to do a distribution.
Yeah, I don't think that it's a gray area. So like, even the council voting to distribute, if it's like a retroactive refund or something, then that kind of does collide with the no beneficiaries clause. Because the council is the one deciding it, but there's still a rule that the foundation is not supposed to do that.
So I guess I have a hypothetical question here, because VR Dev did say there was like a consideration here for still putting the PTD forward, even knowing that this is potentially going to be rival. I'm trying to read the exact message. Should that indeed remain the only option? Did I too little sense? Because the issue is that yesterday people started speculating that rarity farming is going to be the distribution method because it's the legal method, but it leaves a lot of holes for other asset holders, and it only rewards top 7,500. It becomes a lot of people will be upset by that. But we already saw some members of our community start hitting the bazaar, and it's creating, I don't want to say artificial pump, but sort of in a sense. So I just want to make sure that we kind of get to a place where we feel comfortable with what we're doing, because we don't want people to get wrecked front running strategies. I know it's their own choice, but just as long as we can like be clear to avoid that, I think that would be smart. But it does seem, I'm just trying to look for this thing I saw it from VR Dev, just the idea of like,
I think it would be a huge break from precedent if he continued with a core prop and just removing two key parts of his SIG prop.
Yeah,
there's never been such a dissonance between a SIG prop and a core prop like that I can think of. Maybe someone has an example. I think my personal opinion, I mean, I would obviously vote hell no on, if he put a core prop out like that, it would be an instant no, just on principle of you can't change a proposal that much from SIG prop to core prop.
Yeah, so it would need to either move forward with the direct, like basically what was said in the original polls, like those SIG props, the one that passed, and then that can move forward potentially, but then we might be at legal risk if we do vote that through. So then now the multi-sig signers and directors would be in a weird position where they have to decide whether or not to sign, or if it's even legal for us to do that. Or we go back through the process again where we do another SIG prop that has clearer terms, now that we're kind of aware that if we need to focus on rarity farming. I mean, my suggestion is, I understand people want this distribution faster, and it's well within their rights. But from a logical standpoint, we should wait until Nestor is elected and we can seek legal counsel, and then we can move quickly, because we know exactly we're all in lockstep together, versus this ambiguity. Because there's already people like in the chat, just you can see it, like people questioning whether switching to a full rarity farming distribution at this point would be fair, or if it would be approved, because people did vote on this previous SIG prop with these different buckets, essentially 1/3 1/3 splits between these three different buckets, where this would just be one big bucket straight to rarity farming. It could be and the rarity farming potentially percentages could be changed by this core prop, because we would basically be eliminating, for option 2 on the distribution percentages for the rarity farming part of PD, option B is 70 BRS, 20 kinship, 10 XP, which is our older formula, versus like on the C option, which would be giving more points to kinship and less to, we'd be taking some from BRS and then adding more to XP, which I don't think people would really support, versus the first option, which is actually winning, which would be what we currently do, if I'm not mistaken: 20% to Battler, 50% to BRS, 20 to kinship, and 10 to XP. So we're not only choosing a distribution through rarity farming, we might be changing the rules of rarity farming for this vote, if I'm not mistaken. Unless I'm reading this wrong, that's what it seems like with this new updated poll. Okay, I just want to go back and make sure I'm checking all these comments. There are some comments about delegation that we see here. Let's see. Foreign saying the foundation only owns the 10K legal budget and some admin funds. I don't think we even have admin funds. I think it's just the 10K legal budget, which is there. We don't own that. It's just ready for when we get there. Let's see. With several snapshots, one per month, we can avoid front run strategies for Maxi Crouton. Foreign saying, because the DAO owns the DAO's treasury while the foundation is still there as a legal wrapper to protect the DAO from my non-lawyer understanding of these docs. Good morning, Bach. Good to see you here this morning. I don't think I've seen you at a hangout or DAO in a while. Coder Dan saying, put together a picture is any crypto fiat, IP, or other property held by the foundation or its mandated signatories is property of the foundation company. The DAO as counsel directs how that property is used, but it's not described as the owner, according to ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's a weird argument to start bringing up now, especially like we have monthly like DAO Treasury reports and things. I don't know if that would be it might be an argument, but it'd be a pretty far-fetched one to try and argue at this point that, hey, that these assets aren't actually the foundations; they're the DAOs. I don't know if that would be a defensible argument.
Yeah, because then I wonder how that affects the legal wrapper thing. The protections that we would have. Because then, I mean, if we do certain things, it does issue compliance needs in the Cayman Islands, like not necessarily paying taxes, but further reporting. So I don't know if, like, as a foundation, if we just like distribute all the assets, how that would be kind of classified under Cayman Islands law. I think we need to also consult with Lotusha about this. It'd be good to get some of their feedback, but we just have to, I guess, communicate with them. Like I said, it'd be easier if we do this once Nestor's enshrined in that role, because then we have the proper person in a role with the proper discretion to actually start moving around and making these decisions. So Lotusha, Lotusia, is our corpsec. Tim Rabble, I'll tag him here and see if he like spawns at some point. Tim Rabble is our corpsec representative. Lotusha also is acting as our supervisor nominee. So on our current documents, we have two directors or officers, and that's me and Choina. I'm not certain what roles we have. We don't know if it's like founder, president, secretary. We're not 100% clear about this. And then we have Lotusha as the nominee supervisor and as our corporate secretary. So if we had moved with DAObox, we would have had DAObox basically take over the director's role and corporate sec, and then one of us, ideally, or someone else that we trust, would be listed as the nominee supervisor. So if they do anything out of pocket, that nominee supervisor can like kind of like, they're the last line of defense from what I understand. If corpsec goes rogue, they're the ones that can actually reach out and start making adjustments in the Cayman Island like courts or whatever to change things about the foundation. This is why we needed to add Lotusha as a corpsec, because we didn't have access to our corpsec or the nominee supervisor when we discovered that the foundation was in default in March.
So, question: are you saying that Nestor, who's actually going to go and do a call with like a legal counsel? I don't think it's appropriate for Pixelcraft to do that, given the fact that every time we go to bat for the DAO. People always say there's a conflict of interest. So personally, I won't be doing that call, but we need to know, is the expectation that Nestor will, or one of the DAO facilitators could be a candidate? Like, who's actually going to do that?
Yeah, so from my understanding, when we were talking about this at like way back when, the idea was that once we elected the new director, this is before Ditchy even put out his prop. My advice was elect new director, have that election, and then have that director as part of their enshrined role this duty. And part of their role would be to seek the legal counsel, would make sure that they have the available funds. And then ideally, like when we were talking with Ditchy as me, it was me, Choina, and Maxi Crouton, I'm advocating for, if we have any conversations with our lawyer, we do it on one of these calls. We don't have to broadcast the call, but we can do it together, but with questions prepared so that we're not going off the rails asking a million questions. Like that was kind of the process that we were looking at. Then Ditchy kind of wanted us to just make a decision, but without really. I never got to speak to any of the candidates that were coming in for potentially to be our legal counsel. It was more like just make a decision. He did try to get us in a Telegram group. We ended up doing a Discord channel, and I never got reached out by any of these people before he came into the DAO and said that we were like basically slowing down the whole process by not doing it. But to be fair, like I've said before, it's because he was asking us to like put him into the role of interim director, which if he had talked to legal counsel, he would have known, as we found out later, that we're not allowed to do that. Yeah, so we're being advised by somebody to give him unilateral power over the foundation when that wasn't even a legal option, which is a huge red flag in my opinion. But, we can agree to disagree or whatever. At this point, in my opinion, I thought that the new director coming in would kind of spearhead that. Nestor can have the call with the legal counsel. We can either do it here in public or, separate, as, he is a trusted entity. He's been voted into this position. And then he would come back with his suggestions. We as a DAO can discuss what the, benefits of this person versus this person. And then we can release the funds to whoever's finally chosen.
Yeah, makes sense. As long as, if Nestor, you're willing to do that, then that's great and makes sense.
Yeah, the only thing is, because when they were asking me and Choina to do this, it's like, I don't know who to contact to find appropriate counsel for our specific, niche of, crypto and, DAO foundation stuff. That's completely outside of the scope of my skill set as a content creator. So it's, don't want to do something like that and put the DAO at jeopardy, or, it just makes more sense to do this the appropriate way. So with that in mind, that would hold up at least for 2 to 3 weeks, the whole process of submitting a new core prop for PTD, because we need to get, the basic questions. Like I said, is our foundation fit for what we're actually doing? Do we have legal protection? Do we need to change anything? Or is it are we overthinking this? And then if we aren't, and we are doing things wrong, what structure would make most sense for us? And then specifically based on our constitution and the foundation we currently have, are we at risk if we do one of these kind of distributions? What's the limitation of this kind of distribution based on the entity that we have created for the DAO? Yeah, Nestor saying, I can do that prepared with counsel's questions. The supervisor topic is a very interesting one. Our Constitution makes very explicitly sure that his powers are neutered. That's where we derive from our freedom as counsel. Yes, at least one other person should be part of the conversation with legal. So, I mean, I can give you my perspective of what I've seen and kind of gone through with legal. But I think also the second person, honestly, should be Tim Ravel, our corporate secretary, because he can answer more specifics about because I can't tell you what role I'm in. I just know my name is on a piece of paper in one of these roles, but I don't know what role I'm in or what that means or who the members are. We haven't gotten clear answers on that previously. So we need this kind of information before we can move forward. So I think, waiting for the official election to go through, assuming Nestor does win, which I'm hoping he does, we can then move forward in a more meaningful way. Okay, we've talked a lot of foundation stuff again. Is there anything, any subjects that we should address while we're here? We still have 20-ish minutes left in the call. I'm looking at our DAO forums. We don't have anything new recently other than the director election going live. Stake and chill. Is there any update on that? It seems like, are you just going to kind of sideline that the topic for now, Coder Dan?
Yeah, I don't think it's like a very popular topic from what I gathered, and the winning option, I mean, had pretty overwhelming majority of people supporting it. So uh, I think we're just gonna go with the flow on this and see, where the DAO wants to take this.
Yeah, it makes sense. I see Choina is typing, so we'll give him a minute. Yeah, I guess while I wait for that, just one more time, friends, make sure that you're going over and voting in the snapshot. There's still the DAO Foundation Director specifically. This one's at 23% quorum. We still have 2 weeks, and we should be able to get this across the line, but we should, yeah, try to push that through. Troy is saying the DAO is paying Lotusha 2K to act as supervisor. Should the supervisor be the other who is present for the call? Yeah, I mean, that would make sense, but it depends on what they're like in that role they can do. Got a couple people typing here. Okay, no, I thought rather someone who is elected by the council slash DAO. Yeah, the only reason I would say having Lotusha here in that call with legal is because they can adequately and accurately describe our foundation, like what the current setup is and exactly like what the whole thing looks like, so that our legal counsel has a better picture. We can just, the blanket statement to legal counsel right now is we have a Cayman Islands Foundation, we have 2 officers, 7 multi-sig signers, no members that are on record, but I can't even tell you if that's true or not. I know those basic facts, but like stuff like who are the members, what position is, who's the founder on our documents, we don't know. Yeah, I think they are too far removed from our DAO. I think we should just choose from amongst ourselves. So we could do that where we have our nominee supervisor be one of us, because it's it's not a hugely important role, and there's no liability for that person. From what Lotusha has told me, Lotusha has said that the officer roles are the ones that could have liability, but that could be due to fiduciary things, like if you're not acting, in the best interest of the DAO, or you do something that is illegal. The nominee supervisor is more like of a protective role, from what I understand. So it could be a DAO member. It could also be somebody outside of the DAO. It doesn't have to necessarily be a DAO member. Zonzi, hey, sorry, do you mind doing a quick recap on what's needed for directors or whatever? I guess I can watch the recording. We didn't really talk about what's needed. It's just a matter of like, these are statutory roles. When we say director, though, we have to separate director from multi-sig signer, because we called them multi-sig signers directors before. Now they're monkeys with ledgers. The multi-sig signers are separate. The directors for the foundation, it's a couple of statutory roles such as president, founder, I think it could be one of them, vice president, secretary. I think we have the discretion of picking what we want, but we need at least one statutorily, from what I understand. Currently, we have 2. We actually have none because we both resigned, but we can get into that later. But we have 2 directors listed on paper, but there was no formal election, and it was just like these 2 people had their names put down. This also happened with the previous iteration of our CorpSec, where they put 3 of us down as the, I guess, founder, president, and vice president. So now what we're trying to do moving forward is basically we're having this election to have someone formally chosen as a director, because then they can act with discretion in a way that the multi-sig signer should not be acting because that's beyond the scope of the role of a multi-sig signer as described as from our foundation constitution, if I'm not interpreting it. So that's the TLDR. We need one director. Nestor currently is winning the election to be that one director. Once he's in place as a director, then we can start making moves because we have, as a unit, as a council, decided this person should be in this role, and then seeking legal counsel, figuring out who should be the nominee supervisor if we need to change that. Does our foundation structure serve us currently, and then is it legal for us to do a distribution the way we are planning to do it? The one thing that worries me is that there has been no consideration for this distribution, that we're not actually making sure that we're not distributing money to sanctioned individuals, like people who are in countries that the DAO should not be interacting with. And there's no real way to protect ourselves from that outside of KYC, which is completely unacceptable. So I don't know how, I don't feel confident that we can do that without putting ourselves at some level of risk. And, it's stupid, but World Liberty Financial is going through this where the Senate is now, coming after them because they had some distributions to like Iran and to the Lazarus Group. And now World Liberty Financial is trying to say that they froze all these wallets. I think they did it because they're trying to front run legal defense saying, oh, we didn't distribute. These people were phished. And they were the ones that were sending funds because they got, suffered some kind of exploit or attack. So it's definitely like, this kind of stuff is pertinent right now in the news, specifically sanctioned funds. We're a small DAO. We're a large DAO, but we're not like a big player. I don't know the ramifications. I just think we should err on the side of caution. PG, I agree.
Been doing that with rarity farming for years now.
Yeah.
Not saying it's perfect, but there's been no issues so far.
Yeah. PG, initially all directors were supposed to be on the Cayman docks. Having only some was part of the problem. The issue was that we were supposed to be on the Cayman docks as multi-sig signers, not as these official statutory positions. So the CorpSec originally just picked, it seems like the first three of us, the Americans specifically, and put our names in these roles like that are heightened roles beyond just being a multi-sig signer. So that is really the issue, because we as a unit way back then, we had discussions like, do we need this role? Do we need a president? Do we need a secretary? Do we need a vice president? We settled that we did need a treasurer, but that's an on-chain treasurer. And then CorpSec was never really kind of notified of that. We didn't even know we had to do that. So the initial thought from what we were told is, yes, we're going to be on these documents, but I think we were supposed to be as members, not as the official statutory governance roles of the foundation, which, from what I've been told by Lotusha and others, has a heightened risk versus being on the multi-sig by itself.
I'm gonna have to jump here, friends.
Yeah,
We're gonna have a glad we got there was a little bit of progress here in some way. Confirm that there is a budget for legal counsel, so maybe Nestor, when he gets elected, can start moving on that.
Yeah, it seems like a straightforward process. We got 2 weeks until this election's over. We can then source out legal counsel and then have them advise the DAO in a very orderly way so we don't waste any funds. And then from there, we can plan out that distribution if the DAO if it's okay, we do it in that way so that we remain compliant and don't get anybody sued.
Yeah. Sounds good. Have a great weekend, friends.
Yep. Thank you, Coder Dan.
Later.
I see there's still comments coming in. I'll read through some of these, and then we can shut down in a few minutes. I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to kind of speak what they're saying. Yeah, I'm glad that got sorted out. Thanks, Nestor. Zero knowledge KYC is the way. Yeah, I guess we could use something like billions or something. Yeah, Zonzi saying, yay, lots of exploits happening right now. Cloudflare went down. Brazil, there is a WhatsApp thing going around draining people. Airdrop front end got like domain swapped or something. Yeah, so we're just starting now. This is what Nestor's saying, but that's quite the hard step. Yep, CorpSec just put No Future and China under the bus. This is where the core of the problems were, because for us to save the foundation in March, they had to have me, Choina, and Mike Callium KYC. He quit the DAO a while ago, but he's still listed. He was listed as a director. So what that forced us to have to do is they needed me and Choina definitely to KYC in order to to be able to go to the Cayman Islands to get things changed. So we were then on the new updated docs. They removed Mike Callium, but they kept me and Choina on there. And since that point, once we found out about that in mid-June, maybe late June, we've been kind of stuck in this place where we don't want to do the job, and if we quit, we can quit. We have quit, but now the DAO is in this weird position where legally you're not allowed to not have an officer. So even though we legally quit and we could walk away and do nothing, the DAO is now responsible to find a new person to be on that. Yep, Nestor, go for it.
I have a question. Did they anything want from you specifically that you wouldn't or couldn't agree to?
Are you talking about in what sense?
They ask from you. I mean, like underwrite something or make any, discretionary steps.
The corp set, no, but
yeah.
What was happening was we were getting ready. It was the beginning of the distribution because of Bob. When Rongming and Bob came through, the issue became like, can we sign off on this? Like this puts if we do this kind of distribution, we don't know if we have legal protection. The other thing is the DAO started demanding that me and Choina choose legal counsel, which means if we do that, we're making discretionary decisions. So that our understanding, and I'm sure Choina can, agrees with this, since the beginning was that we are just multi-sig signers. We have no discretion. We should not be doing anything within discretion.
I understand.
Yeah. As soon as we do anything with discretion.
That was a misunderstanding, clearly. Yeah.
Yeah. So me stepping down was because Ditchy was asking us to put him in the interim role. And to me, even though many people don't agree with this, my only option was to step down because that stopped the whole process. If me and Choina quit, no one can just insert, we can't insert an interloper potentially into that role when they advised us that we could when we really couldn't. So by stepping down, it forces an election, which forces the whole DAO to slow down and really look at their options versus like forcing us to make a discretionary decision.
Yes, it's certainly a good thing that we are talking about it. And well, that goal is reached. That's a good thing. Yeah. Okay, good. So we'll see. We wait and see and collect our questions for legal. Do we have to do another vote on that?
No, because the vote, from what I understand, the vote enshrined that we have the 10K and basically we can now choose legal counsel. The question has been who chooses it. So part of the bounty that Ditchy got the bounty to source out the legal counsels, 3 of them, and then he was supposed to give his suggestions to the DAO. It became that the DAO wanted me, Choina, and Maxi Crouton to make that decision. But as I said, I refused to make decisions for the DAO because that puts me at legal risk.
I see. Why I would choose it according to the will of the council, like what we say is the best option for us altogether. It wouldn't not need to be like a prop for that, we have these 3 options. And a question: Latusha is not would not be our legal counsel.
No, Latusha is just the corporate secretary, so they're basically handling our administrative task in the Cayman Islands, our annual reports. They will update whatever documents whenever we need to, and then basic stuff like that,
I see. So they are not a law firm.
Yeah, they're just our liaison between the foundation and the Cayman Islands courts.
Yeah, that's correct. The corporate secretary has to have a physical presence on the Caymans. Yeah, that's in the law. I read that. So, okay. But I thought maybe they were a law firm too. Well, I think the DAO box mentioned some legal firm in their proposal at the end. I have to look at that. Not sure, because they wouldn't also provide legal counsel, the DAO box, as I understood. Aurum Law, exactly. That's what it was. So we could contact Aurum Law directly or via DAO box. I don't know. Maybe, probably through DAO box, since we decided on that.
Yes, I don't know who has the contact information from DAO boxes. I was never directly in contact with them. I think Coder Dan has reached out to them, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, and then keep in mind we do have 10K allocated towards this, like to seek legal counsel. I'm assuming that should be enough, but if we there is a chance in the future that we might have to ask for more depending on what we need. But right now, I think 10K should be
Yes.
enough for like a single consultation.
I think so. I mean, and a lawyer hour costs how much? I think somewhere between $300 and $600 per hour. So we should have about, I don't know, 30 hours of counsel, or maybe less, 20 hours. And so we should compile it, compress it, our questions, so that can be done very quickly, I would say.
Yeah. And I think as soon as this election ends, we need to get you into the DAO Directors channel, because we have a CorpSec channel that only we can see. I've asked to make this
Yes.
public to everybody, but you can then kind of read back through the whole conversation and see
Yes.
kind of what we've been told.
Maybe I can learn something from that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, actually, if you go back to the DAO discussion channel, I had a 1 hour call with Lotusha, with Choina and Thrax on the call that I recorded, and I did post the whole. He goes into the deep of everything.
I missed that.
Yeah, this was
Okay.
back in March or April. It's a recording that I dropped. I believe it was in the DAO discussion channel.
Okay, I will look for that. Thank you. April, okay. But I tried to read as much as possible, but there's, yes, a lot
Yeah,
to
there's a
go
lot.
through.
Yeah, I guess if there's
Okay,
no other
okay.
questions or comments, we can wrap it up here. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Yes. No. Thank you. Thank you very much for your work. And yes, we have a plan. That's good.
Yep. First steps, you gotta get the plan, and then we put
Yeah,
one
first
foot in
steps.
front of the other, and we're doing it now. So that's great.
That's correct. Okay. So then have a nice day and weekend, you all.
Yes, thank you everybody for coming out. We'll see you next week for the Aavegotchi Hangout and Dower. Shout out to the people listening on X and on Blaze. Hope you have a great weekend. Remember to get out there and vote. We have several active proposals, the AGIP 151 for the DAO Foundation Director election, as well as these polls for the partial Treasury distribution regarding the rare farming. I don't know, just if you have an opinion, definitely drop it into the forum post and vote if you can. Take it easy, friends. I'm going to shut it down here. Have a good weekend.